What's up, good people? Here we are for episode 3. Hopefully, you had a chance to go and watch and listen to the first 2 eps. If you haven't, go ahead and run those. I do say so myself. There's some good info in there. Yeah, I'm a bit biased, but oh well. What you gonna do about it? Let's get some good news out the way. The pack looked good against the Bengals, number 1 in the division now. It's time to run from the front of the pack, no pun intended. Just gotta make sure folks don't think that early season success was a fluke. See Watson be back soon for some juice. Jay Reed be back in a few more weeks. Golden looks legit. And Tucker Craft is a madman. So the offense is solid. Defense, still elite defense. People have made adjustments to us and started to throw the ball shorter to stop the pass rush from getting home, and that's fine. The scheme is to stop you from making big plays, make you drive the ball downfield, dink and dunk, rally to the ball, tackle. If you're playing defense that way, it's going to force teams to take long drives and just going to give you more opportunities to, 1, make a play on defense, 2, for them to make a mistake. All it takes is for one holding penalty or offensive pass interference or illegal procedure or illegal formation or something, false start. Those yards go back, and most times when drives have those penalties, that turns into a punt and get the ball right back to J Love. So I'm not saying nothing. It's still early in the season. A lot could happen with injuries and people play fall off or whatever. But in my spirit, I feel like Lombardi is gonna make his way back home. I want to speak that positivity into the atmosphere. That the Lombardi Trophy is gonna come back to Lambeau by the end of the season. We believe in love. That's all I'm saying. I believe in love. Speaking of love, there's a line in Love Yourz by J. Cole where he says, the good news is, nigga, you came a long way. The bad news is, nigga, you went the wrong way. And listening to that verse makes me think about America. Because America mimics that verse in a way. Because, yes, overall, this country has grown. As a society, we've grown. We've had the first black this, the first black that, the first woman this, the first indigenous that. But instead of actually healing, it feels like we've just gotten better and better at disguising the things that we don't want to be seen as. Let me explain. It wasn't until 1992 when there was a women's restroom in the Senate floor. It wasn't until 93 when women were allowed to wear pants on the Senate floor. So, America, you have come so far, but you've got so far to go. Shout out to Dilla and D'Angelo. Rest in peace to both of them. We lost one of the best musicians ever this week. So I just wanted to find a way to work that verse in so I could shout them out. But getting back to America, what we're seeing now is a re-rise of white Christian nationalism and Nazi analogs, and it's a direct byproduct of one of America's original sins, how we handled the Confederacy. Sure, we defeat the Confederacy, but we still allowed that cancer to stay in the body. Let me explain. If you were sick and you were diagnosed with cancer, and you went through treatment, you went through therapy, doctors identified the cancer, told you where it was, and you got to the point where it's like, man, all my symptoms are gone. Would you leave the cancer in your body still? Or would you have them remove it completely? See, what America did was, hey, I don't have any symptoms anymore. We've gotten past the most, painful symptoms. We can just leave it. The body will handle it. We'll take care of it. It won't rise again. Pun intended. But as we've seen in the last 40 years, leaving that cancer in the body has allowed it to regrow, metastasize, buy up all the media, plant people in positions to change the laws, influence the Supreme Court, hack elections. And it's gotten us in a position where we have a 3-headed monster in our government. And all of them are in lockstep with bringing back white supremacy. America should have cut out the cancer completely. And that is one of our original sins as a country. You notice I say one of ours because America, ooh, Ooh, ooh. America is the center that fell down over and 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 over again. That brings me to another thing. We got an escalation of violence in the Caribbean. I mean, we're continuing to bomb ships, extrajudicial murders of people in boats, accusing them of being drug runners. Then you've got the news coming out where they're publicly announcing that they've given approval to the CIA to lead a coup in Venezuela. Like, I get it. We've done that. America does that. We go in and destabilize regions for various reasons. Money, usually, influence, strategic positioning, all of those things. America does that. We know it. We've seen the declassified stuff. There used to be French conspiracy theories, but now we know for a fact there's evidence that America does this. But for it to come out in the news in a press conference, for the president to be like, "Yeah, I gave them approval to do some stuff in Venezuela," it's crazy. And because of the escalating violence in the Caribbean with the strikes and the bombings of the boats, the narco terrorists, as they call them, without any evidence, you've got military leaders, folks with experience that are stepping down from their roles because they don't want to comply with these corrupt orders. And I'm torn on this because, on the one hand, I want leaders that have some kind of moral code, especially folks that are on the decision making end of blowing things up. I want them to have some morals and ethics that say, this is an illegal order. This is wrong. I won't do it. I applaud and praise them for that. And I'm happy that there are people in those positions that are willing to do that. But on the other hand, I'm extremely uncomfortable with it because we've seen that this regime is comfortable with putting people in place that will just say yes. Qualifications be damned. And it is terrifying that we could potentially have a leader in the South America area running the military, guiding that deployment, that is unwilling to say no to any illegal, unethical, immoral, unconstitutional, globally approved method of conducting business, and just say yes to whatever Donald Trump and Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth and crew say. And now you have Venezuela building up a response. So we could potentially have war in South America. And it's been escalated through extrajudicial means. We've committed violent acts against their citizens, publicly acknowledged that we want to overthrow their government. And now we're potentially going to war with a South American country. I mean, we've been involved in South America for a long time. Everybody that knows America's history and government and politics, paid attention to it, knows that America has been very heavy handed in South America. But here we are, stand now on the precipice of potential armed conflict with a South American country. So, yeah, puts us in a weird spot. And one of the things that comes with this escalation in violence is increased monitoring and surveillance. You've seen it in America. I mean, you've seen the deployment of the National Guard to all these cities. You've seen the escalation of violence from ICE agents as they try to enact this regime's policies. Pit maneuvers on individuals, firing shots at people protesting peacefully, um, baton attacks, pepper spray, all the things that have gone on with that escalation of violence. And there is a long term play with that. They're trying to get the kettle boiling. They want it to boil over. They want us to respond. Because if we respond, then that gives him justification to legally say that we're rebelling against the government, we're committing an insurrection. And then that will bring the full force of the military onto the soil. And that's not something we want to see. So, as we prepare for big protests this weekend, the No Kings protests, which are really like No Kings rallies, Protest is supposed to make people uncomfortable. This is more like the Million Man March, where you got permits and time frames and permission and stuff. So it's a show of force, a show of unity, but it's not true protest. Protest is supposed to make the protestee, or the person being protested, uncomfortable. Now, this will make it uncomfortable because there will be a ton of energy, but the convenience of it, the scheduled nature, the registration methods all make it a little less protesty and more like communal complaining, if I can call it that. But with the escalation of violence physically, we've seen escalations in the tech space as well, because they have significantly increased their monitoring and surveillance game. And it's important folks start and it's important folks start to take very seriously their e-footprint. And also when you're being engaging in exercising constitutional rights, you've got to protect yourself from the tech overreach. There are guardrails in place to protect us that require action. And we've seen now from folks in this regime that they are not willing to speak against or do anything against this regime. So some of those guardrails have been significantly weakened. DHS has and continues to invest in surveillance tech, facial recognition, cell phone tower spoofing, and even hiring a team of specialists that are going on the internet, scrubbing social media and other places for data, and trying to build dossiers on people that are in opposition to Trump, had negative things to say about the regime, negative things to say about ICE. You've got the formalization of Antifa as a terrorist organization, even though it's a concept, not a centralized thing. And that's really a slippery slope to making protest illegal. And the methods that they're using to surveil people and to collect data work with that hand in hand. That infrastructure has always existed. It's not something that America hasn't had because we spy on everybody. But to the extent that that's been outward looking has been more common than being inward looking, especially at the scale and scope and with the clear bias that is present. We know historically about wiretaps and hidden footage and all that for historical figures. And during the Red Scare days of McCarthyism, when they thought everyone was a communist threat. But as tech has improved and we've moved to this more wide scale, wholesale kind of surveillance, and regard for legality has kind of gone away, kind of gone extinct like it was a dinosaur, we're in a new era. You've got things like Stingray tech that the government uses to spoof cell phone towers. And your phone will connect to that tower and it will collect unique identifiers from your phone so you can be tracked across your networks, making you a potential physical target. And also being able to identify your phone and identify those markers allows them to potentially make you a digital target, sending malware and other surveillance tech to your phone. And phones have always been a concern for security. We trust them. We always have them on us. They connect. They share a lot of information, even passively, when we're just going about our day. And you can learn a lot about someone from their cell phone, not just from the things that they do on it. You can learn locations. You can learn habits. Every time Siri's like going to work, or your phone's like, here's the time to travel to the gym, it learns your patterns. And that information is information that in the wrong hands can be very dangerous. Um, and it's very useful, it's very helpful, and that's the appeal. That's the sultry nature of technology. It makes things easier for us, but it also makes it much easier for us to be tracked and identified and for habits to be learned. And as much as we have good security on phones and encryption and password protection and all that stuff, that kind of data can be used against you, not from like a brute force hacking your phone kind of way, but you can be socially engineered. There are things that people can do learning all this information about you to force you to make decisions that they want you to make, or go places they want you to go, or do things they want you to do, say things they want you to say. And as you go out here to protest or do other things, it's important that you take the time to protect yourself. If you're going to be out there, if you're going to be out and about exercising your rights, protect yourself. Phone completely in airplane mode. Location services off. Turn the phone off completely. Put it in a Faraday pouch. something that'll prevent any signals from transmitting back and forth. Leave your phone at home. If you need to make phone calls or if you need to record video, find another way to do it that doesn't go with you everywhere all the time. It's important that if you are out protesting that you are documenting everything, because there will be bad actors out there, folks trying to escalate the violence because of what I mentioned earlier. It's important that we document as much as we can. So take care, protect yourself. The Big Brother is watching. I mean, it's explicit now. It used to be kind of hinted at and it's fringe, but no, it's explicit that our government is spying on us, and it's important that we do whatever is necessary to protect ourselves. And thinking about that and protecting ourselves, it reminds me of a conversation that I had a couple weeks ago, unrelated to politics or anything like that, but protecting yourself in the workplace. I've had to confront my privilege as a man. It wasn't something that happened because I did anything wrong or anything happened negatively in the workplace. But in talking to people over the last few weeks, last few months, as my job goes through this transition, my willingness to advocate for myself, speak up for myself, ask for things is a product of who I am as a person, but it's also empowered by me being a man. And when I talk to my coworkers, a lot of them being women, a lot of the things that I would say to somebody to ask questions about pay or new roles, new opportunities, or speaking up for myself or questioning things, they can't do. They should be able to do, but there's been such a long history of women not being received the same way, being bold, being looked at as a negative thing instead of being a positive, that I've had to confront that a lot of my growth professionally comes from me being who I am, one, and being a man able to be who I am without being afraid. And that's something that I've had to acknowledge, and it's something that I think we should do a better job of in pretty much every avenue, making sure people shouldn't be afraid to be heard, to advocate for themselves. And let's talk a little bit about some science now. Let's get away from some of this heavy stuff where we're talking about craziness and all that, and drone strikes and all this brouhaha. Let's talk about plastiline. Let's talk about plastiline. Plastiline is a technology or a byproduct of recycling plastics that a black scientist, young black man, has come up with. It's not new technology, okay? We've known that you can do pyrolysis on plastics and recycle it and make fuel and other things. It's not very efficient, it's not a very clean process, but we should absolutely praise this dude for his intelligence and his ingenuity. And his work is not going to overturn energy as we know it and be some revolutionary thing that changes the world on its own. But it is a step forward, especially if his claims about efficiency and reduced harmful byproducts can be verified. It was smart of him to address some of the efficiency concerns by using solar, since one of the challenges with the process of pyrolysis, at scale at least, is how much energy you have to put into the system to get energy out. It's not very energy efficient. It takes a lot of energy to break down those plastics and turn them into something else. And sometimes what you get out of it energy wise isn't the same as what you put in. So for a recycling methodology, not necessarily a good thing if it takes way more resources for not a good return. Now the thing is, he's a black man. He's a black young guy. And I get it. As a black man who's aware of my surroundings and history, I know our people's ingenuity and our advancements are frequently pillaged, repackaged, reimagined. Um, and it's not a question of if that's true or not. We know that to be true. So I'm not naive to question why folks feel the way about they do about him and express their concerns. Like, this man's got to hide himself, protect him at all costs. I get it, especially because of the concerns about the economic impacts of something like this being going wholesale and being able to scale up. Big oil could find a way to get rid of him, get rid of his tech, which is why I'm happy, that he's publicly talking about these things, because when you do things in public, it does give you a layer of insulation. When you do things in private, it's much easier for people to do things nefarious to you or to your information or whatever. But doing things publicly displaying it, publicly talking about it, gives you a layer of insulation. And especially with some of his cryptic social media posts, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it makes it adds to the mystique. But it's all kind of just goofy and distracting. His science is really good. I'm not saying the science isn't good at all, but it's not revolutionary in the sense that the one thing that he did will immediately change everything. It's a step. And because of how we are, it's really easy for us to sensationalize things because no one really knows how anything works. We've gotten to the point that we have so much access to technology and information that our curiosity has been suppressed. We just accept things that they work. This is how this works. That's not a question that people ask, really. That's why the show How Things Work is so popular because is a fringe group of people out there that still care to learn how the things they use every day actually work. But for the most part, folks just want it to work. They don't care how it works. The things we use on a day-to-day basis might as well be magic. And don't get me started on computers. People use computers every day. We use them all the time for everything. We basically took sand, cleaned it up, etched some spells into it, hit it with electricity, and now the sand can do math. That's how computers work. And that's something that when you apply that logic to everything that we use on a day-to-day basis, it's basically magic because no one really knows. And when you don't know how things work, it makes it much easier for you to take something that you're told about that technology or about that science or about that medicine and sensationalize it. You can call it groundbreaking when people that actually know about the science will say, no, it's not. We've been doing that for a long time. Think about mRNA tech. You have so many people that are anti mRNA tech for vaccines because they think it's something brand new because they've never heard about it before. It's 30-year-old technology. To scientists, to people that know about the tech, to people that have worked on it, it's not new. But to people that are just exposed to it and their frame of reference is this small, anything that's told to them about it can easily be sensationalized because they have nothing to compare it against. Which is why it's funny when people say, do your research. Research is a thing you have to learn how to do. Sure, you can read some things about it and you should ask questions. You should absolutely challenge things that come across your desk, come across your news feed. But research is actually a thing. Like it's not just a reading. It's not just looking at stuff, reading articles. It's part of it. But getting back to my point, we have to be very cautious about what we sensationalize. Very easy to do when you don't know how anything works. So I suggest that people take more time to pay attention to how things work and not just worry about if they do or don't work. And for our scientists that with the plastiline, what should happen instead of us being afraid of him being taken out is to get him some resources. He clearly has ability. He clearly has talent. And we should be taking people with that ability and talent and giving them problems to apply their fresh eyes to. Applaud what he's done, but let's get him into a position where he can actually be resourced, challenged, refined, and let him really solve some of the big problems that we have as a society. In a few weeks, we will have our first live session, if I may speak, live. I'll be sending out some invites to folks and we're going to chop it up. Should make for a good time. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, like and share these posts, and pay attention to my IG at If I May Speak if you're looking for more frequent news, more updates, more content. I like this. I like where this is going. I look forward to continuing to do this. I love y'all.